Barack Obama, without a shadow of a doubt, is easily one of the most arrogant, condescending, and elitist mindset-having presidents that I've ever seen in my lifetime. When you listen to Obama's speeches and lectures, particularly when he's addressing Black Americans, he comes across as a guy who thoroughly believes that he is the smartest and most intelligent man in the room, and on top of that, he is the most entitled man in the room as well. And for proof of that, I want you to take a moment to take a quick look at this clip from the 2016 Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Gala. After spending 8 years in office, literally doing absolutely nothing for the Black community by way of legislation, this man had the audacity to stand up on stage and tell Black America that you need to vote for Hillary in 2016 to protect his legacy. And if you don't vote for Hillary, he's going to take it as a personal insult to his legacy if Black America allows Donald Trump to win the election. Don't believe me? Well, listen for yourself.
If you care about our legacy, realize everything we stand for is at stake. All the progress we've made is at stake in this election. There's no such thing as a vote that doesn't matter. It all matters. And after we have achieved historic turnout in 2008 and 2012, especially in the African American community, I will consider it a personal insult, an insult to my legacy, if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
Look at the arrogance of this man. Obama once again did absolutely nothing for Black Americans by way of legislation. And funny enough, Obama apologists can never seem to tell you what he specifically did for Black Americans either. But I can tell you exactly what he did for everybody else specifically. And to prove my knowledge of this, what I'd like to do is play the last 4 minutes of my 2020 video titled White Skin, Black Mass, How Barack Obama Played Black Voters Just Like Joe Biden Will. And in this clip, I will go through all of the key pieces of legislation that Obama signed specifically for every other group. And after watching this, I challenge any Obama apologist to show me the equivalent legislation that he signed specifically for Black Americans. But you know what's interesting concerning the first biracial president? He didn't talk like that to Holocaust survivors. He coughed up money for them. He had policy that was exclusively for them. Obama administration earmarks $12 million for Holocaust survivors, funds to be distributed over 5 years. 1/4 of 130,000 U.S. victims of Nazi persecution live under poverty line. Now, can somebody please tell me why Obama did not direct them to the same Rising Tide Lift All Ships poverty programs that you get directed to? And don't sit here and tell me that it's because those would-be reparations recipients are all dead. There are plenty of Black men and women who look just like the people in this photo, who can recall vivid memories of living under Jim Crow. So that's a lie. Secondly, do not tell me that it is because the dollar amount is so low, because you cannot find me one piece of legislation that Obama signed for any dollar amount that would exclusively go to Black Americans. He did nothing. But you know what? He did have money for Native Americans, $510 million to be exact. Under the Obama administration was also the launching of Michelle Obama's program, Let's Move In Indian Country, which aims to improve opportunities for physical activity, to increase access to healthy food in tribal communities, and to create collaborations between private and public sectors to build programs that will end childhood obesity in Native communities. Obama also supported tribal communities through certain provisions of the American Recovery Reinvestment Act of 2009, which allocated $510 million for rehabilitation of Native American housing, and the settlement of the Keeps Eagle case, a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture for discriminating against tribal communities by not allowing them equal access to the USDA Farm Loan Program. Now, what is the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009? 2009. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 was a stimulus package enacted by the 111th U.S. Congress and signed into law by President Barack Obama in February of 2009. Developed in response to the Great Recession, the primary objective of this federal statute was to save existing jobs and create new ones as soon as possible. Other objectives were to provide temporary relief programs for those most affected by the recession and invest in infrastructure, education, health, and renewable energy. Now what I'm going to do is a little screen recording because I want to do an experiment, because this article right here gives you a full breakdown of where the money went for this program. So let's get into that right now. First, I'm going to type in black to see if we can find if they say anything about black people in this act. Let's see, BLACK, nothing. Let's try African American. Let's see, African American. African American. Nothing. African American pulls up nothing. Now let's try Native American. Well, there you go. $510 million for the rehabilitation of Native American housing. Meanwhile, Obama had nothing for you, despite the fact that Black Americans were devastated by the Great Recession. Staggering loss of black wealth due to subprime scandal continues unabated. Obama could care less about your housing situation and loss of wealth following the Great Recession, but Native Americans, here goes $510 million. Now, as we all obviously know, for immigrants, he had DACA, which is an executive order that is so ironclad that not even President Trump could get rid of it. And for the LGBTQ community, Obama signed all types of legislation. So with all this being said, stop letting people tell you that he did something for black people when he didn't. And stop letting people tell you that he couldn't do anything for black people, because for the first 2 years of his presidency, both the House and the Senate were controlled by the Democratic Party. Barack Obama literally could have done anything he wanted, and he did, just not for black people. So I say all of this to inevitably say this. If Barack Obama, the first so-called black president, did absolutely nothing for you, what in the world leads you to believe that Joe Biden is going to do anything for you? I'll let you ponder on that as this video comes to a close. Now, after watching that, can you believe that Obama had the audacity to sit there and tell you that he was going to be personally insulted if black Americans didn't turn out for Hillary Clinton? The arrogance of this man. But true to their word, Barack and Michelle were offended and felt insulted by black Americans after the 2016 election. And in Michelle Obama's 2020 Netflix documentary, Becoming, she publicly outed black America. Now let's take a moment to read from this Daily Beast article titled, "Michelle Obama is mad at our folks, not Trump voters. That's my trauma," to see what she had to say about black America. While Trump is casually referenced from the first minutes and the mood of the country scores the film's entire conversation, it's not until roughly 2/3 through the film that she addresses her negative feelings about the 2016 victory directly. Twice, she talks about how painful it is to her that black voters didn't turn out to vote for Hillary Clinton, calling the decision not to vote more painful to her than those who voted for Trump. It takes some energy to go high, and we were exhausted from it because when you're the first black anything, she said, referencing anecdotes from her Becoming book. Now here's the important quote. "So the day I left the White House, and I write about how painful it was to sit on that inauguration stage, a lot of our folks didn't vote. It was almost like a slap in the face. I understand people who voted for Trump," she continued. "The people who didn't vote at all, the young people, the women, that's when you think, man, people think this is a game. It wasn't just this election. Every midterm, every time Barack didn't get the Congress he needed, that was because our folks didn't show up. After all that work, they just couldn't be bothered to vote at all. That's my trauma." Wow. The arrogance of the Obamas is simply astonishing. They really look at the black community wanting something for nothing, and those sentiments have continued till this day. Just shut up, stop trying to be so smart, and go vote us into office. Now, the clip that I'm going to show you next is from a podcast called Pod Save America. And I want you to listen to this exchange where Obama is essentially talking about how everyone should just get out there and vote despite the lack of change that it creates as far as transformative change is concerned. He first starts out talking about climate change, but I'm going to skip that part just to get straight to the point to where he's talking about racism. And then we'll get back into the discussion.
The thing I worry most about during these midterms, and this happened throughout my presidency and pretty much every Democratic presidency, is that our Democratic voters get real hyped up around presidential races. And we lose interest a lot of times during midterms. And then we're puzzled as to, well, why isn't more stuff happening, And then we use the fact that more stuff isn't happening as an excuse to not vote again in the midterms. The same is true when it comes to issues like racial justice. Is your vote going to eliminate racism or problems between police and communities of color across the country? Probably not. But you know what? It could mean a different DA someplace. It could mean the difference in terms of making an investment in diversion programs that give kids a chance and don't simply lock them up for 20 years. And that's got to be worth 15 minutes of your time. And then you can continue to work for the broader vision that you're looking for. But I do get frustrated with an attitude that I'm too cool to vote, that you see floating around the internet a lot among folks who purport to be progressive, and I can't wrap my head around that argument because it's not as if these folks who are, on social media making this argument are out leading the revolution, right? They're not. They're on social media.
They're not knocking on doors.
They're not knocking on doors. Well, but they are not offering a plausible alternative course of action.
Let me tell you why what Obama is saying is BS. As I've stated a million times, and I'm going to keep saying this until black folks get it through our heads, you've literally been voting Democrat overwhelmingly between 85 to 90% on average since 1964. That's 58 years, over half a century. And the end result of this is that by 2053, the median wealth of black Americans will be 0, and by 2065, you will be 4th on the population list. 58 years, and you still have to articulate the fact that Black Lives Matter. That is insanity. And I hate to be cliche, but we all know what the definition of insanity is as defined by Albert Einstein. But if you let Obama tell it, being insane is the most rational thing that black Americans can do. Don't ever entertain conservatives, don't bother voting third party, and don't you ever have it in your mind that you can actually raise up your own grassroots candidates. Oh, no. Don't even waste your time with that. Do the insane thing this November and make sure that you get out there and vote blue no matter who. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. And also, please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as an insurance plan for myself. So in case YouTube ever gives me the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those of you who have issues with joining Patreon, you can also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.